Successful Minds with Patricia Baronowski-Schneider, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Successful Minds with Patricia Baronowski-Schneider is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider.
Hey, are you looking to scale your business from 5 figures to 6 figures or 6 figures to 7 figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to Successful Minds. I'm your host, Patty Baronowski-Schneider. Today I'm joined by Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer, speaker, best-selling author, C-suite coach, and strategist. So welcome, Cynthia. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to be here.
My pleasure.
So I have spent the last 35 years in corporate America, predominantly in human resources. Expanded my responsibilities in the last decade of my career as a chief administrative officer, lots of industries. And about a year ago, I had the opportunity to branch off and start my own coaching and consulting practice. It's been a dream of mine to really pour in specifically to women. I do coach men as well, but I have a really special place in my heart for amplifying the potential of women. So I've been doing that now for a year, coming off of the release of my first book.
Very, very nice. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah. So now your career spans over 30 years in various industries. So can you share some pivotal moments that shape your journey as a business executive and human capital strategist?
Yeah, I think there were several things. There were the personal moments where, and I talk about this in my speaking engagement, when it was clear that my kids didn't think I was always very present. And you'd have those sort of stab you in the heart moments where they'd be thrilled that I had to put my phone down for a few minutes, right? And you think, gosh, you don't realize the pace that you get into and how you're pouring so much into work. And I'm a breast cancer survivor, 2008. So it's been a good amount of time, which is amazing. But I think that for me personally was one of those moments where, while it was never life or death, there certainly are those moments that are that scary. And you realize how fleeting life is and how short it is. And it sort of, I think, gave me perspective around boundaries and balance and being present wherever I was and being okay with the choices I was making. So I think from a personal perspective, I think professionally, there were a couple of times, to be honest with you, that I just didn't feel that I was being very treated with a lot of dignity in a particular situation where my gender became part of the equation. I had a boss say one time, maybe people would stop coming by asking questions if you wore curlers to work every day, implying that they're only stopping by because they think you're attractive, not because you're smart and capable and have something to bring to the table. So I think those professional moments, along with those sort of personal experience, impacted my career trajectory and gave me a lot of thoughtfulness about where I was going to go next and what was important to me.
It's funny, we sound so much alike. I've been through so many other things in my life as well. And it is true, life's short. You never know what's going to throw. Like, I actually wrote a book about life's obstacles can be your greatest motivators, because people look at you and just figure they have it all figured out.
That's right.
You don't know the half the stuff that I've gone through. It's just,
right.
I always hated that, judging a book by its cover. It's like, you don't realize, like, I always love when people say, you never know what someone else is going through. Just because they smile and seem happy doesn't mean they're not dealing with a ton of things. So good for you for standing out and taking that stand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you started working at a very young age, and you navigated predominantly male-led industries, which I can relate.
Right.
So what were some of the key challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
I think part of it, is a little self-induced. If I'm being honest, I have a real hospitable personality. I'm the person that hops up if I see that you're coughing and your water glass is empty or you don't have one, or if I grab my lunch, I'm grabbing someone else's. If I'm picking up my plate, I'm grabbing others, and I think I don't encourage people to not be hospitable. I do think it's important that when you're the only woman in the room, or you're one of the few women in the room, that you recognize the brand that you're putting forth. And if you are always the one that's volunteering to take things on, if you're always the one that's volunteering to do the things that the men in the room aren't quickly raising their hand to do, taking the notes, organizing the event, etc., you begin to create a professional brand that's who you are. And so, some of those things I think I had to learn later in life, that there's a balance of being gracious and hospitable and polite, and also standing up for your professional image and how you want to be perceived. I think the other thing is just that your own self-doubt. Walking into room, I was also the youngest for a long time. Sadly, that's not the case anymore. But for a lot of years, I was not only the only female, I was the youngest person in the room, and that comes with a little bit of self-doubt. How do I navigate this? If I volunteer to say something, is it going to be perceived as naive or what have you? And so I had to learn to really take a lot of qualifying language out. It was easy to start with, this might be a dumb question, or this might be a naive perspective, but, and yet, I guess to my credit, more often than not, it wasn't a naive question, right? Or a naive perspective. And so removing that was something I had to learn to get out of my own way.
Right. And it is true what you say about branding yourself, because it is true. You would become known as, she's going to take the notes, we don't have to deal with it. She's going to do this, we don't have to deal with it.
Right.
And sometimes the guys, they'll just sit back and say, okay, what sucker's going to do it first? And,
That's right.
So and I also started in like a male-dominated industry. The unique thing was I was working with predominantly women at the time. And so that's why people always say, what made me do what I do? And I'm like, it wasn't that I went to school for it. I admired the tenacity of these women, because they felt they had to prove something. So they were these big go-getters, but again, working 18-hour days because they felt they had to prove themselves. But I admired their strength, which kind of bit me in the booty going now, because then I continued that. And it's like, all right, guys, same single mom, 2 kids, working 18-hour days, nights, weekends, the whole bit. But, live and learn. So I get what you were saying about the kids, okay, mom's home, what's going on? Somebody's sick, But,
no, I see you. A very parallel life.
Live and learn. Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So as we said, balancing a demanding career while raising 2 children and pursuing advanced degrees, it's no small feat. So how'd you manage to juggle these responsibilities, and what strategies work best for you?
No, I think I got better at it over time. But one of the things, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, right? So I would say that I'm best poised to serve the person I once was, and that is that I didn't always get it right. But one of the things I learned over time, and again, I also learned this through my health challenge, is people want to help. And it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to accept help. Oftentimes people see you and they want to be part of the solution, but they can't change your circumstance, but they're happy to lend a hand. And I think that sometimes it's a gift when you allow the neighbor or the friend or the person that says, hey, let me help you out with that, or I can run that errand for you, or I can pick the kids up that day.
Right.
And realizing that we don't have to be superheroes, that part of being a great leader is being good at delegating, number one. And number two, delegating to talent. So don't ask the person that hates dogs, right? To, like my mother, to be the person that comes and lets your dog out on the day that you have to work late. Choose the person that loves animals, or that has a teenage kid that doesn't mind to do it. So I think that was part of it. The other thing is really thinking about boundaries. And I think as women, we want to do it all. And if we're asked, okay, we'll do it. And, getting to the point where it was like, that doesn't, A, bring me joy, or B, I'm not very good at that thing that I was asked to do, or C, I legitimately don't have the time. And so being okay with that. And sometimes maybe it's that you pen a check for $10 for school supplies rather than volunteering in the kids' school. Right. Sometimes it's, I can do stuff in the evenings. I can make phone calls, or I can type up something for you. I can't be available during the day because I have these other demands. And so for me, it was a lot about figuring out, how can I contribute in alternative ways if I really feel like I need to show up because there's this external perceived value.
Right. No, I agree 100%, because I'm the same way. I don't like saying I can't do something. I don't like saying I won't, I'll just try to figure it out. And then I'm sitting here migraine saying, oh my God, I don't have the time to do this. And it is good that you reach a point where you're like, okay, I know I bring value for this, maybe not for this, and that's okay. But I bring value for this, and we have to figure out how to make it work. So it takes a lot for people, especially a woman in a male-dominated industry,
it does,
to be okay with saying, sorry, can't do it.
That's right. That's right. Or I took the notes last time and somebody else wants to do it this time. That would be amazing, right? It doesn't mean that you aren't a team player or that you say no to everything. But I do think that we have to have agency around where we can show up at our best versus trying to show up for everything.
Yeah, no, for 100%. Now, tell us, your new book, Now, Near, and Next. It's aimed at mid-career women. So what inspired you to write the book, and what key messages do you hope to convey to your readers?
So really excited about this book. It just came out in March, USA Today bestseller. So that's exciting for us. Really because we're so passionate about getting this message out. I was in a place in my corporate career where I was really feeling a little antsy. And I'm a single woman. My kids are now out of the house. And I thought, okay, I need something else to kind of fill this intellectual curiosity. And I've always wanted to write a book. I always knew it would be about shining a light for women. I had this great advice that, again, you're best poised to serve the person you once were. And we started doing research. My co-author and I started really talking to women in mid-career. And what's really important is mid-career is not midlife. And it's not middle management. It's this 3+ decades long of, 28 years old to 60 and growing. And what we found in our research is women get a little restless once or multiple times during that. And when we unpacked it, it was because they didn't feel fully actualized. They had more talent to give, more value to offer, more to do. And we believe that intentionality is one of the critical paths to solving that restlessness. I was experiencing that restlessness. We were going through a CEO change. There was a little uneasiness about what the future was going to hold. And so it sort of, through that process and that discovery, realized that I needed to be thinking about my next, because that would empower and liberate me through this process of change and prepare me, I thought, 3 to 5 years from now, to move into this next phase, my encore career. And as we studied women, what we realized is 900 collective years of experience of these women, 25-year age span, 5 race ethnicities, 4 countries, to a person, they could relate to this feeling of restlessness and lack of intentionality in planning and thinking ahead of, okay, love what I'm doing now, or I don't love what I'm doing now. Either way, what is my next, and how am I making momentum toward that?
Mhm.
So it was a bit therapeutic, and turned out to be something that globally women are experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it is helpful to talk to people like that, because most people always just think it's just me, nobody, because these are things people don't talk about. So
Right.
you just think you're the only one and you must be a failure because you don't hear anybody else talking about this.
That's
But
right.
it's good when you bring it out in the open and say, everybody has this issue. Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you might have touched on this a little bit, but can you discuss the evidence-based methodology outlined in your book, and how can it help ambitious, overextended professional women achieve self-actualization?
Yes. Yeah. Which is really the through line of the book. The through line of the book is start working on your future today. So if we were just to sum up 9 chapters, it's start intentionally working on your future today. And the methodology of Now, Near, Next really says, regardless of where you are at this moment in time, identify what is your next. What is your next aspiration? And it doesn't have to be a new job in a new company. It could be a lateral move where you are. It could be a promotion. It could be an advanced degree. It could be a new technical certification. It could be writing a book. It could be serving on a board. It could be starting a podcast. Whatever that is, what is that aspirational next thing you want to achieve? And then what we help women do is say, okay, so I've identified that. Now, what is the timing of that? So how do I get from my now to my near to my next? And we really help you explore, if you're in a situation that isn't fulfilling your sense of purpose, that isn't aligned with your talents and gifts, then your timeline is probably shorter. You probably want to move to your next a little more swiftly. If you're saying, gosh, I just started this new job, I love it, everything's amazing, or what have you, then your next may be 3 to 5 years out. Whatever that is, we break down a blueprint that says 2/3 of the window between now and when you've identified your next, you're going to be working intentionally at whatever pace, but more slowly, more methodically. Starting to take the classes, starting to create the outline, starting to put feelers out, whatever that is. And then in your near, the last third of the time, now I'm starting to accelerate my pace to my next. And so we really try to make it super practical, super actionable, and put it into a plan that you can follow.
Now that is good, because so many people, the minute you feel things aren't going the way you wanted, you have this anxiety. You have to change it now.
Right.
So this is good that take your time, no rush. We're going to plan this for the future. So it takes that, anxiety out of the picture.
Exactly.
So yeah. Now tell us, throughout your career, you've had mentors and supporters. So can you share a story about someone who significantly impacted your professional journey?
There have been many, and I will say women and men. Nothing in our book or in our philosophy is waving a finger or, shaking a finger at men or society in general. What we really say is men are looking up and looking forward. How do we do more of that? But the example I'm going to give happens to be a woman. I always like to clarify that, this isn't all anti-men. It's really how do we look forward. My first corporate, real big girl job boss is a lady named Nancy Mankin, and I've lost track of her. So I hope one of these days she hears the podcast or
Nancy,
reads the book.
Attention. Yes,
Nancy, if you're out there. She's a single mom, and she was an asset manager of commercial property, commercial real estate. I had a broadcasting undergrad degree, had worked a little bit in radio, and really took this job to pay the bills. And I think I was called an assistant asset manager. What I really was a secretary. But you wouldn't know that working for Nancy. I mean, she was someone that she was so inclusive. She had me sit in on meetings, even though I had really, at that point, very little to offer. I sat in on meetings. She would debrief what was going on with things. If we were working on negotiating a contract with one of the commercial tenants, she'd talk and walk through it with me. She'd ask my thoughts. I learned so much from Nancy, both as a leader and as just a woman. I looked at how she held herself, how she dressed, how she handled conflict. This was an all-male, predominantly industry. It was a very good old boys time, back in the early 90s. And Nancy held her own, but also had this beautiful femininity. She was both strong and a woman. And I thought, man, that is what I want to be, when I grow up.
Right.
So I think that really was formative for me. It was a great experience early in my career. It formed how I lead, how inclusive I am with others, how I value the opinions of all people.
Right.
And she said to me one time, we were closing the office, actually. They were gonna close the office, and I kind of welled up when she told me, here's a single mom of 3 kids who's losing her job. I have an opportunity that had been pre-established to interview for a different job in San Diego. And she says to me, they're closing the office. We're not going to have a job by this date. And I welled up, and she leaned over, all 5'1" of her, and she said, don't you dare walk out of here and let them see you cry. And people hear that story differently. For me, it was really empowering. It's like, you can sit here and all of the things, but you're not going to walk out of here and let all of those men see you cry. And I'll never forget that moment. It was empowering. It was liberating. It was, she met me where I was, but I thought, she's focused on me in a time where she has so much more to lose. So it was powerful.
Looking to grow your business beyond 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures plus? What I want you to do is go download this book. The title is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. It will help you grow your business past 5, 6, and 7 figure. Go download the book today. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and download the book for absolutely free.
That's awesome. And she sounds like a phenomenal mentor, because a lot of people, like saying back in the day, I wasn't included in anything. They kind of just, one, for women, a lot of times it's competition. They don't want you to learn more because it doesn't look good for them if you learn more and get better than them.
Yes.
Which is silly. I can learn more from you. And she kind of was actually empowering you to be the next her, which is actually huge. That's awesome.
It was amazing. And you're right. Women often live in this scarcity mentality. And so we're so negative and not helpful. And our whole passion is to build other women up. I want you to be extremely successful. I want to help other women to really live into their fullest potential.
For sure. I mean, it's exactly what it is. You build one another up, and then you become a great team. But if you're competing against one another, you'd be counterproductive for what your job's supposed to be.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Now tell us, as a social psychologist, what unique insights do you bring to the table when coaching and strategizing for women in the C-suite?
I think part of it is what drew me to social psychology in the first place is I'm fascinated with people. And I really believe in my soul that every human being has so much to offer. And there's an intuition, I think, that comes with that. So in coaching, it's largely around thinking about the human dynamics that are surrounding a situation. Most situations, I would be as bold to say all situations, they're not as they seem on the surface. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes we react to that comment or that behavior or what have you. And I have said my mantra has always been, always assume positive intent. Just assume positive intent. And if it feels ugly, explore it. Yeah. Don't shove it under the rug. Don't take your ball and go home and just feel bad about it. Get underneath it. But assume positive intent. And I think that for me in my coaching, it helps to really depersonalize a lot of things that I think we own and take on, as people in general, women in particular, but as people in general.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of bites me in the booty every now and then because I'm one who always thinks positive, always thinks the best in everybody. And unfortunately, the world we live in, that's not quite the way it always is. So I've
That's
been
right.
burnt many, many times, scammed many times just because I want to believe in the best of you. So I'll continue working with you, and you're just using and abusing me. And so it's tricky to, see the difference, understand the value, and bounce stuff off of other people because some people don't want to seem like they don't know something. It's okay to ask somebody because other people see things you don't see.
That's right. That's right. And there's a difference between assuming positive intent and not having boundaries, right? So assume positive, give the person the benefit of the doubt, but explore it if it's not sort of setting right with you. Because there are times where maybe your first intuition was actually the accurate one. And it's like, okay, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt until I explore it and find out that, no, you actually meant that in an ugly way, or you actually are taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And you help people do that. So that's
right.
Big bonus. So now tell us, what are some common misconceptions about mid-career restlessness? And how can women turn this period into an opportunity for growth and advancement?
Couple of misconceptions. One is, and I defined it earlier, I think people think of mid-career as midlife. And so, at least from our research perspective, we're not talking about, a middle age. We're talking about 3 decades. I think the other thing is, I actually had I was on a podcast with a gentleman, and he made the comment that, well, isn't it that women are leaving the workforce in their, young 30s to go have kids, and that's why there's the, gender equity gap. And I'm like, no, actually, if you actually no, if you look at the data, the gender equity gap remains the same, 17% for women who have children and women who don't have children. So that doesn't track. So I think the bottom line is it's not that family life is the thing that's the distraction. I would offer that I think women are conditioned, and particularly women and the BIPOC community. So our Black, Indigenous, people of color in particular, to put your head down, work hard, and good things will happen. You'll get tapped when it's your turn. Yeah. And I had somebody say to me recently, and be low maintenance, right? So we could throw that in there. And the reality is women are loyal, we're team players, we're somewhat dutiful. And for those that do put their head down, work hard, and wait to get tapped while they're servicing everyone else around them, taking care of kids, taking care of family, taking care of aging parents, etc., is that our male counterparts, and again, no judgment of them, but they are racing past us because they're looking up and they're looking forward. And so I think the misconception is we have agency around looking up and looking forward. And we need to take, if it's 7 minutes a day, more than 5, less than 10, to invest in ourselves, guilt-free, unapologetically. Yeah. We can take back some of the agency within mid-career to be intentional about our next steps and not live in restlessness and live in that feeling of being stuck because we're just simply waiting for somebody else to tap us when it's our turn.
Right. And it's a little tricky too, because I grew up in a family, it was the whole Catholic school upbringing and kids are seen and not heard and you do as you're told, blah, 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 blah. So you kind of were like that. You put your head down until somebody told you it was okay. And, so you have, decades of, conditioning that has to be undone to say, okay, you know what? I'm good. And I have a lot to offer and I'm bringing it to the table and you're going to listen to me, So It's not just a business thing. It's a lot of psychology that you've been conditioned with since you're a kid,
1000%. And it's interesting because people talk about this current generation, this new generation that's entering the workforce. And I hear people say, but they're so much more vocal and they're looking up and they're demanding more. Interestingly, a friend that I've met through this work, Mel Stanley, who has a podcast and is releasing her first book, is doing research with this emerging leader, this younger generation. And they're having the same challenges that you and I have had. They're not sure about speaking up about their career, about negotiating their salaries, about other things. They might be speaking up about work conditions or hours that they work, et cetera. But in a lot of ways, these women in particular, these young women, are still falling into that same conditioning of it's not appropriate or polite to talk about salary. I'll get tapped if I just work hard enough, somebody will notice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you don't realize that it gets passed on from generation to generation. Little by little, it might lessen, but for the most part, because I see it with like dealing with parents and grandparents and whatnot and what they instill on everybody. It's like, wow, and part of you thinks like, that's not how it is anymore, but it's still what you were taught for years. So
That's
I
right.
get it, but I still conform to it because that's all I know,
Exactly. Yeah. It's a hard habit to break.
Yeah. Now tell us, in your experience, what are the key qualities and skills that ambitious women need to cultivate to succeed in a male-dominated industry?
I think first and foremost, and this is probably true of anybody, gender agnostic, but that is a growth mindset. We have to continue to be thinking about relevance. And I think in this day and age of technology, as we move more to thought leadership, as we have so much more AI and other things that are going to do a lot of the work for us, it becomes more and more important that we're really staying ahead in terms of our areas of specialty and expanding and growing in that. I've been doing a lot of research lately about women who take a career pause externally to raise children. And I think that's amazing. And as we continue to get a society that's more comfortable at normalizing that, what remains important is relevancy. And so staying current with what's going on in your area of expertise, I think is critical. I think we speak up more when we feel that we have the information. Women in particular, men are a little more open with just putting out in the universe, their random thought and don't think twice about it. We want to make sure it's completely buttoned up and we can cite it before we can say something. Yeah. So having that growth mindset, staying really aware of what's going on in your area of expertise, broadening your worldview. One of the things Nancy taught me all those years ago is she could talk to anybody about something. She was just well-read. She had a broad frame of reference and a broad worldview. And I think that makes you likable. I think it makes you relevant. And I think it allows you to interact with lots of different people, particularly men.
Yeah. And what you said is totally true about like AI and evolving with the times. I mean, I know a lot of people are set in their ways and this is how it is. I don't like the new stuff. This is how it is. Like it or not, the stuff is here to stay. And you have to, I always say be a continuous learner, but you don't have to like it. You have to accept that this is how things are and learn to adapt. And because if I did the same things I always did, I would have been bypassed years ago.
Right.
You have to evolve and keep up with the times and be confident. If you don't know something, learn it. Talk to people who know it. Play around with stuff. Like I was dabbling in something new now. People are like, what are you doing now? I'm like, I'm just playing around with it. But you know what? This is exciting. I'm excited to learn something new. And it add one more thing to my arsenal of what I can do for you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because then you're constantly keeping yourself ready for that next thing. Right. And you don't get set aside because now technology or the younger generation or pick a thing is going to replace you.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, even now with saying, like I see now in the stores, it just seems like we live in the world where they want more money to do less work. You're doing it all for, the self-checkouts, blah, blah, blah. And while a lot of it sucks, how can we work within this? So even if I'm at a job where I have to do less, okay, but the less that I'm doing, how can I do the best at that? And can I add anything to that? There's ways that you can stand out, because if you're just one of anybody doing the same mundane task, no one's going to look at you. But if if you out of 20 people can do a little bit more, a little bit better, or show what more you can do, now people are going to notice you. So, you could still stand out,
Yeah. How do we look at robots, if you will, and humans as teammates, right? So how do I partner with technology such that the technology is creating an efficiency so that I can really live into my greatest potential?
For sure. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't look at it as it's taking over my job. It's helping me do a better job because I can use it to do X, Y, and Z. So even though it's taking 50% away of what I can do, with that 50%, let me add on 50% more something else, so it's kind of like your little mini assistant, it's
That's
how
right.
you look at it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Now tell us, looking ahead, what are your future goals and aspirations for your career and your work in empowering women to claim the agency and amplify their possibilities?
So excited about the future. As I said, I've only been at this for a year, so it still feels a bit new, but I skip to my office every single day, just hoping I can touch one life. If one person reads the book and feels empowered, if one person puts a plan together and starts to feel that they've got, they feel more liberated around where they're going next, then that's what really matters to me at this stage of my life. Two things. One is I really hope to start a podcast by the end of the calendar year. So I'm going to try to follow in your footsteps and do something in this space. And then we do have two things coming. So I'm in the process of writing an allyship guide, which will be a companion guide to Now Near Next. We're really finding a demand from men and women that say, I'm at a point in my career that I can really ally for other women who are pursuing their next. What does that look like? How do I do that? And so I hope to have that completed and out by the end of July 24. And then secondly, our next book, which it will be 18 to 24 months out, but are working on Encore Career. We're finding that so many women who've had these professional careers that start to really accelerate in their late 40s, 50s, because in some cases, kids are out of the house. When they decide to quote unquote retire, they're a bit lost.
Yeah.
Where is my sense of purpose and belonging? And so we're jokingly calling it Beyond Pickleball. So we'll see where the titling lands, but we're going to be doing a lot of qualitative and quantitative research with women in their mid to late 50s, early 60s and beyond to say, what does your encore look like? How do we retire retirement?
Yeah, no, that's all. It is true because everybody I know who's retired, they're going out of their mind. They're like, okay, well, what do we do? Like you realize you've worked, you're in school working to a job, working. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're done.
Yes.
Oh my God, like now what? Like what?
Exactly.
Yeah. And the ally thing is awesome because it's good with mentorship and whatnot. But like even with what I did, I had a couple college kids contact me on LinkedIn. And they were doing their college thesis on either investor relations or public relations and marketing. And they said, can I pick your brain on stuff and use it for my thesis? And I could tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you how it is. And I was just very blunt and told them everything because I want to help you. And they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. No one's ever told us this stuff. So they're like, can I put this in my thesis? I take whatever you want. But people love that I want to help you succeed in this, So if you can do this, or if what I'm telling you makes sense, because it's great and it's fun and it's awesome, but there's a lot of stuff involved in it. So you can decide, is this what you want to do? And, it's good to see the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. And decide, is this what you want? So I think that's going to be a great book too. There's a lot of people out there that could use that, and especially the retirement one.
Yeah.
My husband retires next year. We're like, oh my God, he's going to drive me nuts.
He needs to take up a hobby real quick.
Yeah, well, he's already starting that now. So I'm like, okay, good.
That's good. That's funny.
Awesome. But anything else you want to add that we didn't cover?
I just would challenge all of your listeners to start intentionally working on their future today, regardless of where you are in your journey, whether it's the perfect moment in your time and you love everything about what you're doing, or you're really at a crossroads or in a transition. Start working on your future today. Little baby steps. It's all about momentum. It doesn't have to be an hour a day, 7 minutes. Yeah. But what is your next? Figure it out and put energy toward that.
Right. Yeah, that's 100%. Because I could sit here and say, well, when I retire, I want to travel the whole world. Okay, but we need to start planning for how you can financially afford. Like it's just so much involved. So
exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how can people find out more about you or get in touch with you and all that good stuff?
Yes, I would love to hear from your listeners. You can reach us on our website at zealoftheheel.com. You can also send us an email at inquiry@zealoftheheel.com. And again, the book is available on Amazon and wherever quality books are sold.
So, well, thank you again for being on the show. Again, that was Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer, PhD. So thanks again for listening to Successful Minds with Patty B. And never miss an episode by subscribing to the channel. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Hey, we all want to scale our business. Hey, I have the answer for you today to help you do that. If you're looking to scale from 5, 6, even 7 figures and beyond, book called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is type in growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and you can download the book for absolutely free. I hope the book helps you this year. Take your business to the next level. Again, go grab the book, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. I wish you the best and grow, scale, and win.
Thank you for listening to Successful Minds with your host, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.